Today we continue our study of 2.5D miniatures in a veritable treatise that mer people can still be awesome.
Quick preface, if you haven't seen episode 40, go watch episode 40 and then come back here. One of my favorite races in Kings of War is the Trident realm of Neritica. They're one of those unconventional, offbeat kind of races, and for that reason I just had to play them. So here's how I made my army, including a Trident King. So we're going to make a regiment, and that's 20 models, so we need a chipboard rectangle that's 100 millimeters by 80 millimeters. And then we need some dollar store foam board of the same size. Now hot glue pennies or washers or some kind of cheap metal to the chipboard. And to the other side we glue the foam board as in episode 40, but with the following clarifications. Peel the paper off both sides and use an extra strength glue stick to attach them, not hot glue. Now I'm just going to lightly etch out a pool sort of shape with a pencil, and then we'll use a new ingredient here. This is pure acetone. You can get this most anywhere, Walmart, Target, Amazon, that kind of thing. As you can see, it will rapidly eat away at that foam, so apply it lightly at first and see how it goes. In fact, I recommend you experiment with some scraps before actually trying and potentially wasting a base that you've already assembled. By the way, this technique and the color scheme we're about to do is courtesy Black Magic Craft. Check out his channel and subscribe. Okay, now I accidentally skipped ahead and based in black. I forgot one part. Apply straight white PVA glue around the edge and flock with a couple pebbles and sand, as we always do. Then base the whole thing in black. Now cover the whole thing with a dark blue. I'm using Craftsmart and the shade is literally called dark blue. This should be pretty watery but still full coverage. Now while it's wet, paint the outer edge of the pool as shown with Craftsmart turquoise and the same wet brush that you were using. The ideal here is to get a nice tapered blend from the blue to the turquoise. This took me a lot of practice to get right and I'm still not there. Kind of has to do with how much water is loaded, how much pressure you apply, how much of the blue was still left in the brush. It's an art, not a science. And finally get some Craftsmart lime green and work in just a couple spots as shown. So here it is wet, not a great job of blending, but I'm getting there. And here it is dry. Use that same turquoise to dry brush the sand and also some spots in the pool. And dry brush some spots of lime green in the pool as well. Then apply the lime green, not watered down, thick as you can, to the edges of the base. Again, using Black Magic Craft's recommendations here, this is the Acrylic Water Kit that he recommended. So I'll mix up a very small amount of it per the instructions, 50-50 mix, stir very well, and pour. I came back 2 days later and it was totally cured. And here's some examples of other things you can do with the acrylic water. Here's a different example. On this base, instead of a pool, I did a narrow stream. The miniatures are created just as in episode 9 and are simply hot glued on as the very last step. Okay, so on to the main event, the Trident King. Here's some cereal box cardstock. I'm going to measure out a 1/2 inch wide strip, and from that strip I'm going to cut 7 petal shapes. The biggest one will be in the center, and then you need 3 pairs that are successively smaller, as shown. So my center one was 1 1/8 inch tall, and then each pair decreased by 1/8 inch. So take the largest petal, the center one, and hot glue one of the next pair to it at a slight angle, as shown. Do the same for the other one in that pair, and do the other 2 pairs similarly, so that you end up with the final result that you see here. Now cut out a perfect circle, 50 millimeters in diameter, and cut straight into it to the center, and then fold it in on itself about 1/8 of an inch as shown, and hot glue that in place. This makes sort of a small cup. Fill it with a blob of hot glue. Now make the base. The Trident King has a base size of 50 by 100 millimeters. So do that with the usual chipboard, pennies, and foam board. Add a pool if you want to, then white glue, flock, and paint as we've talked about before. Now hot glue the 2 pieces of the clam together as shown. For the top piece, the one made of the petal shapes, try to induce a slight curve to it as you hold it in place while the hot glue is setting. Base the clam in plain white. Then apply a solid base coat of pink. And then apply a medium wash of plain red, ensuring that it concentrates along those petal edges. Let that dry totally, and then using plain white, nick at all the edges to highlight them. Now I'm mixing up a light blue with some pearlizing medium, and paint the clam bed with a solid coat of that mixture. And as a final touch, I'm going to glue some crystal beads to the front of the clam. I choose the colors that will complement whatever I did for the base well. Now the flavor text for the Trident King talks about his chariot being pulled by a quartet of sea worms. So here he is along with that quartet. So we attach the clam to the base simply with a large blob of hot glue. And the worms go in front. And the king himself goes on the chariot.
Alright, let's check out the army. The hard-hitting core of it all is a horde of placoderms and 2 hordes of naiad worm riders. And here's a regiment of Noken. I like them because they're just really weird, both in appearance and their stats and abilities. Really flavorful, niche kind of unit, so I had to have one. 2 regiments of River Guard, These are my fast-moving, multi-purpose range support. Then we have one Coral Giant, simply because I wanted something really tall on the battlefield. Two Naiad Centurions, each with different options taken and magic items equipped for specific support roles. And of course the Trident King, taken for his decent enough stats, breath attack, and very inspiring ability. I am Wylock, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.